Cohen, the host of Investing Across Borders, the podcast where we teach you how to invest, live, work, and play across borders. And you can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, on Apple, on all of the podcast channels. We would love to have you as we explore opportunities not only to invest, live, work, and play across borders. Well, I guess play is part of it because we also talk a lot about mindset. So stay tuned for some of those upcoming episodes. We have been on hiatus for far too long, and we are super excited to be back with my good friend, colleague, partner in crime, and many episodes of working with our clients, Mr. Bob Bluhm. Bob, please say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi, Lauren. I'm Bob Bluhm. I'm an attorney in Dallas, Texas, and I specialize in setting up legal structures for Canadians who are investing in U.S. real estate and otherwise may be wanting to start a business. So it's our specialty. We've been doing it for years and years and have represented thousands of Canadians just like you who may be interested in business opportunities in the States.
What got you into working with Canadians of all people? I mean, being one myself.
Well, Canadians are my favorite people. They're the nicest people ever. They really are. They're really wonderful, and I just enjoy working with them. It was a couple of students who are from Canada who were just learning how to invest in U.S. real estate themselves. And they became so good at it that they became coaches and teachers themselves. And one thing led to another. And I had set up their entities and structure. And so they invited me to continue doing that for their students. And it just has grown over the years.
It really has. I mean, pretty much everybody in the space works with Bob in some way, shape, or form. He is a very well-known transactional attorney. And I will say that for myself, I feel extremely blessed. I met Bob a few years ago through a client who's actually finally filed their E2 application, because the lawyer that we worked with to file it took a very long time. But that's how I originally met Bob. And now I just keep re-meeting and reconnecting, and we've met in person a couple of times. And every single one of my clients that works with Bob is thrilled. And I'll tell you one of the reasons that I'm so happy about that. Because Bob's predecessors that we worked with to set up these entities and structure, each and every one of them fell short of our expectations and therefore our clients' expectations. And Bob does not do that. Bob has a wonderful team. Listen, there's going to be hiccups and challenges. No team and no attorney, no professional is perfect. But at the end of the day, the beauty of working with Bob is that he's real, he's authentic, and he really cares about his clients, and he goes out of his way above and beyond. There are a few clients that have been super, super challenging, and Bob has always been extremely generous and also honest with me about when he thinks that the client is just not going to do what they say they're going to do. And I appreciate that as a fellow colleague, because sometimes we don't see the forest for the trees, right? We're our own worst enemies, and we put on our rose-colored glasses. And I think that Bob, as an asset protection expert, as his main kind of focus, when that's what he is, he's an asset protection attorney. So when he looks at entities and looks at setting up structure, he doesn't just look at it like, oh, well, let me just set this up haphazardly because this is the way everybody does it. No, instead he looks at it as like, okay, there's some of our clients that have 6, 8, 10 entities. And for my own stuff as well, I have referred to and utilized Bob's expertise and services because he looks at things from that perspective. And I think it's so important when you're setting up a structure, especially investing in another country, to have that kind of expertise behind you. So Bob, tell us a little bit about how that looks when you're dealing with, let's say, one of my many referrals, which fortunately we have on. I have 2 more for you as of today.
Well, we take a lot of time to get to know the client, to get to know the client's business, what the client intends to do if someone's just starting out. And then we customize the structure, and it has to be customized because this cannot be cookie cutter. It's not a template that everybody gets the same thing by any means. It is quite individualized and depends on many, many different factors that one little fact can change the structure. And so it is something that we often work with someone over several meetings over the phone, several sessions in order to finalize the structure and get it exactly right so that it's tax efficient, meaning we eliminate double taxation, and it provides excellent lawsuit protection, because that is a much bigger deal in the States than it is in Canada. Much bigger.
I think that Canadians too often overlook the importance of that, because once you're in the US and you're setting up a structure in the US and you're investing in the US, suddenly you become subject to potential litigation in the US, or anything, and you need that protection in hand. It's so very important. And one of the things that Bob does for all of our clients, well, for all of his clients, but specifically for all of our clients, is he drafts this amazing graphic, a diagram of the entities. And for me, as a visual learner, I find that to be super useful, because somebody could tell me something 10 times and it may not sink in. But if I look at it and I visualize it, I used to do flow charts in law school. That's the only way I could ever remember anything, okay, other than my name. But anyway, once you visualize it, it becomes real. And he does these flow charts that show how the structure flows and how the ownership flows and how the money flows, which is as important as how the ownership flows for you as the owner, because you're ultimately looking to make money from your investment or your real estate investment. You're not looking to just do it necessarily to have a nice little vacation home, although some people do that as well. The structure is less important there because you're not going to be earning income. But as soon as you start earning income in the US, you become subject, as Bob said, to potential double taxation without the right structure in place. And that's why it's so important to have the expertise in hand. And Bob, the beauty, or one of the beautiful pieces about working with you, is that like, for my own purposes, I have a Canadian business partner in one of my businesses. And so we had to set up a structure that I wouldn't otherwise have needed, because I am American. So I pay taxes in the States, and I no longer pay taxes in Canada. But for this particular entity, I have a Canadian partner. So we had to set up a much more complicated structure. And Bob said, well, even though your business is going to be transacting in Florida, you can set up your limited partnership in Virginia. Why? Because Virginia was what, $200, I think, and Florida was $1,000, and it serves the same ultimate purpose. So that's what we did. And that's what he does for clients. Like, you may think that you need to set up in Wyoming because of some rumor that you heard, but maybe Wyoming isn't the right fit for you. And this is another beautiful factor that comes into play when you're working with Bob, because he does know every state and what the implications are of setting up shop there. Like, California is going to cost you 3 times as much to keep your entity alive as pretty much any other state.
That's right.
Right? So
That's
you're never going to recommend California unless somebody is only planning to do business in California and must have an entity there, because it doesn't make logical sense. But you might recommend Florida because it doesn't have all of those same heavy annual fees and so on.
That's right.
Yeah. And so and you have, how many paralegals are on your team?
We have 4 very active, very busy paralegals, and always adding more. So, but these paralegals do a wonderful job. They are very proactive. They are responsive to clients, and can't say enough good things about our paralegal team.
No, they're wonderful, and that's made a huge difference as well, because a lawyer is only as good as the team that works with him or her. Just like me, my team is critical, and without them, I would be falling on my face and struggling. But it does take time to get those right teammates or team members in place. And Bob's team is wonderful. We have seen in the past few weeks several of his team members come up with great initiatives that help to save our clients from a lot of hassle. One of the biggest challenges that our clients face often as Canadians investing in the US or setting up US businesses is getting tax IDs and or employer identification numbers, as they're known here. Now, for us in America, it takes us about 2 minutes to get a new taxpayer identification number, because we have social security numbers. Without a social security number, you are basically in a waiting game. So sometimes it used to take as long as a month. Now we have it a little more expedited, and sometimes there's even ways, depending on who makes the call and when, to get the tax ID within a day or two. But it really is a process, and Bob's team outlines that process for you and works with you to make it seamless. They even give the opportunity for you to sign off the forms to his team so that they can file everything. I mean, it's just a seamless process, and that's what we like, because we like our clients to feel that their hands are being held throughout, and it's really just a pleasure, always a pleasure. He's always just kind and thoughtful, and I can't say enough good things about you, Bob. Really,
you're kind. You're very kind, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you.
It's just a pleasure, because working with lawyers is not always easy. I acknowledge that as a lawyer myself. Sometimes they have a little bit of an attitude, let's say, or a little bit of an arrogance, and you don't get that from this lovely gentleman. So it's really a pleasure. Bob, can you give us a little information about, like, when you bring a client in, what is are there any factors that, like, common factors that can determine how you set up the structure? Is there anything that you watch out for specifically? If they're high net worth, is it necessarily different? Any kind of tidbits or special information that you can share?
Well, sure. And I think one of the first things that we're concerned about is what kind of investing will the client be doing in the US? Are they wanting to build a portfolio of single family homes, for instance? Are they investing in short-term rentals, Airbnbs, in the Disney area? Many are. And so there's a specific structure for that. Are they looking to immigrate or get a visa and have a business of some kind in the US, in which case that's another type of structure. How many properties are they wanting to do? Are they wanting to scale their business into potentially other states? So the goals that the clients have are key. What kind of investing will determine, what type of structure we set up, where the investing is going to be done, what state. In the US, we don't have a federal corporation as Canada does, where you can do business across all provinces. It's very state specific. And as you were mentioning, certain states are really to be avoided if possible, such as California, New York, Illinois, really tough states in which to do business, very expensive. And then there are some wonderful states in which to do business. Florida is chief among them, and Ohio is great, and the Carolinas, South Carolina, Georgia, people love to invest there. Texas as well.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I'm gonna stop you there for a moment, because I had a client last year who needed to make some changes to their Georgia structure. And this is before you and I were working together. And it was a nightmare to figure out, it was related to the title of the property. So there was some real estate concerns involved. And because Georgia is, what is it, a Commonwealth or something? It's like a little different the way that they have their entities set up, right? And I wasn't aware of this. So it took a very long time to find a law firm to assist the client with this transfer of title and to make sure that the entity was set up properly and so on. So it's interesting because you said Georgia is one of the easier places. So I guess as long as you know, which is obviously you, then that's the key, because Bob really knows, like, literally every state, right?
Yes, we've filed in every single state. We know the time, the approval times in the states. We know the cost of filing in each state. It varies from one state to the next. Some states are very reasonable, low fees, low business taxes. Other states are very, very expensive. And so we, to the extent we can, we avoid those very expensive states.
And also another thing that's very important to understand is people think that if they go to, let's say Sunbiz, because that's in Florida. So if you go to Sunbiz and you set up a limited liability company, which is not a good idea for a Canadian, okay,
That's
just
right.
saying. But let's say they do that. They think that that's it and they're done. They pay the 150 or 125 bucks, whatever it is, and they're done. They have a company. Is that true?
They have the beginning of a company. They have an application for a company, which is really all the articles of organization are. And but it's kind of like saying or expecting to have a house that you can live in when in fact all you have is the foundation of the house, the slab. There are no walls, there's no roof, there are no window, there are no doors, there's nothing else. And in fact, it's the bare bones beginning of an entity, and that will not do. In other words, it's not going to eliminate double taxation. It will not give you liability protection when push comes to shove. It's kind of an illusion that you have an LLC when in fact you really have the bare beginning of an LLC, but there's so much more to not only creating the LLC, the documentation, which is so important.
Can you tell us about that? What kind of documentation? Because I think people are pretty much, I don't want to use the word clueless, but a lot of people just simply don't understand that the articles are just that foundation. What are the essential components of a complete company entity structure?
Well, there are the rules, so to speak, of how you're going to operate the entity. And for a corporation, those are called bylaws. For a limited partnership, it's the partnership agreement. For a limited liability company, it's an operating agreement. And these are absolutely essential documents which spell out what state law requires you to do in order to have a validly operating company. In addition, we want to have minutes of an organizational meeting. We want to have minutes of a manager's meeting, minutes of a general partner meeting, of partners of the limited partnership, minutes of a shareholder meeting in a corporation. We want to have various resolutions because the IRS is hiring 87,000 new agents. It's unbelievable, and so
to make those fake phone calls. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And the reality is there are going to be a lot more audits. And the key to either staying out of an audit or making the audit as painless as possible is to document, and have in your corporate documents authorizations to take certain deductions, to make certain reimbursements. And so those documents need to be there in order to satisfy the IRS, in order to satisfy a plaintiff's lawyer if and when you are sued. Because once a lawsuit strikes, you're going to be required to produce all of your company documents, whether it's a limited partnership, an LLC, a corporation. And the plaintiff's lawyer is going to put those documents under a microscope. And if there is anything wrong with the documents, or they're non-existent or not up to date, they will pierce the corporate veil, which means it's as if the entity doesn't exist. You have no limited liability. Instead, you have unlimited personal liability.
Yeah.
So it's
no protection at all. You may as well not bother.
That's right. So it's absolutely critical that these documents be drafted properly and a full set of complete protective documents be provided to you. That's what we do. It's what we provide to our clients. And then beyond that, we teach clients how to operate these entities. What do you do with the corporation? What do you do with a limited liability company, if indeed we have one? What do we do with a limited partnership? How do they relate to one another? And which one does what? And so it's very, very important that the client understands that. And we spend a lot of time helping clients understand exactly, once they have these entities, what they're going to do with them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that's really important. Actually, it's interesting because it's also relevant when in the visa perspective, because
Yeah.
people get their visa and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm done. No,
No.
because that's just the tip of the iceberg. You have your visa. Now you have to run the business. Now you have to make money to show that you're not running a marginal business, so that you can either renew your visa or maybe move to a green card. So setting up that entity is only the beginning. Now you have to run the company. And one of the other amazing elements of Bob's service is that he doesn't just disappear after you set up your company. If you have questions or you want to set up time, he's available. And he really is probably more generous with his time than me. But just an amazing resource. And one of the things that I noticed, I was of counsel to a company that set up entities, like a national entity structure company, but all they did was set up the entities, and then they would have like corporate veil packages and whatever, and it was great, but there was no lawyer at the helm. There was no legal team to really guide the clients, and so it was just a process. It was just a number, like, let's get some volume going and whatever. And it was great and it served a purpose. But the problem is that then the client ends up just having these documents that they don't really understand. And that doesn't do anybody any good, because having stuff that sits on the shelf, or having like, it's like anything, the intent is great, but without the actual implementation, you're really missing a vital component of what you need to do. And like Bob said, the legal obligation and legal liability in the US is very different than elsewhere, and people will go after you, especially if you have assets, no matter where those assets are located.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important to have proper legal and tax guidance throughout the process. And we have a cross-border tax guy that's our amazing resource that Bob works with quite regularly, more than one, but one in particular that I happen to use myself, because we're our own best customers. But again, I just feel that it's so important. And one of the things to also understand is that if you're investing to immigrate, your structure is going to be different than if you're investing just to invest, because you're going to need additional entities. And again, this is where Bob's team comes in. We work together with our immigration team to make sure that the whole structure makes sense. Sometimes what you think could start as 2 entities ends up being 4 or 5, because you want to make sure that you're not marginalizing your investments with loans and with mortgages and so on. But this is a comprehensive service, and Bob is a key piece of our team and a very valued piece. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And if I could add, Lauren, I think one of the great values in working with you is that, I mean, for a client to be working with you, is that you bring together a number of different disciplines.
Right.
You can provide not only real estate expertise, immigration expertise, but you have brought together a cross-border tax counsel, which we work with on a regular basis. You have the asset protection, entity structuring, tax reduction side with me. And if other professionals are needed to be brought in, then you certainly do. And so the client's advantage in working with you is that you represent not only the client, just you, but you have this team of professionals that work with you. And that gives the client tremendous comfort to know that all the different aspects of their project have been looked at carefully from many different angles, from a tax angle, from a liability and legal angle, from an immigration standpoint, from perhaps even a real estate standpoint. And that's one of the great things that people, your clients, really, truly appreciate in working with you. They've expressed that to me many times.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something that has been morphing over time, and it's very important. Like, I just got off a call with somebody who is a very sophisticated Canadian real estate investor and a member of Keyspire. Keyspire, we have lots of Keyspire clients that we work with. And I was at the Keyspire event with one of our clients in October. And anyway, I reached out to him on LinkedIn, and we just had a call, and he said, this was the best. My assistant said, I wish we had recorded this. He said, this was the best 15 minutes I've spent in the past 2 months. And I said, oh my goodness. And he was just so happy. He said, I didn't even know that somebody like you existed, because it's true. Like, most people are piecemealing, and they'll go to Bob. Bob is awesome. But then they'll go to somebody who may not have the knowledge base that Bob has, or they'll find a realtor that's not investor focused, or they just won't understand that they need this whole picture of services. And that is what we offer. And that is why we do that. We only do it as a holistic package. Our clients are not just looking for immigration or just looking for an entity. They're looking for the whole package that they need for whatever it is that they want to do, whether it be investing or investing to immigrate. So,
and let me add, if they were originally just looking for an entity, they soon discover that there are things that they don't know what they don't know.
100%.
And it's so important to have this very comprehensive view of your tax situation, your immigration situation, how this move affects that approach over here. And so that's why it's so important to have these many different professionals with different levels of expertise on your team. Very important to have.
It is. And also that somebody that understands what you're going through as a Canadian or otherwise investing in and possibly immigrating to the US. Because as many of you know, my ex-husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon. So I know when I told Bob that story once, he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I do what I do. It's not the only reason, but I've been there and literally been through hell and come back, and I help other people avoid that. And it really means something to me, just like it does to Bob. And that's why we resonate so well together, because I'm not just doing this to make a few bucks. Okay. I'm doing this because I really care about people having the right path and making sure that their assets and everything else are covered in the process, because you've got your family at stake. You're moving your family from one country to another. It's a big deal. And it can't be underscored enough. And I think that that's just something that too many lawyers tend to overlook. The other thing is, as I am an immigration lawyer, but most immigration lawyers don't understand the whole process, like don't understand the importance of asset protection. And I'm not belittling immigration lawyers. It's just that immigration lawyers are very specialized. And my practice is much broader and has a much, I think it's much more holistic for sure. And it's not for everybody, because you know, some people just want that fast, quick answer. They just want to get the visa done. And they don't care what it takes. Oh, and another piece, and this is really important in working with Bob and I together, is that some clients come to us, and we've seen this, and they say, oh, I just want to invest. I don't want a visa. And then they're in the process of setting up, or they're investing, and they're like, oh, well, maybe this is appealing after all. You mean I can get US credit if I get a visa, and I can do this and I can do that, and I can access maybe a 1031 exchange that I couldn't otherwise access as a Canadian? Wow, there's big appeal there. And so this is something that is important, because it's not just set up your entities and we're done. It's set up your entities with a view to what your goals are, as Bob said, going forward. And that's so very important. So thank you, Bob, for your time.
Welcome. Sure. Do
you have any closing remarks to share with our audience?
Well, I would say, especially to the KeySpire clients who are beginning a coaching program, oftentimes are brand new in real estate, it's so important to get these entities set up right away. Because when you find a deal, you're going to have to act fast on that deal. There's a lot of competition for good deals. Yeah. And if you don't have your entities set up, you don't have your EINs, you don't have all the things that are necessary in order to make an offer, even close on a property, you'll miss out on that deal. And so you really want to get the entity structure started as soon as possible, so that, you know, and which we take care of. I mean, your job is to go find the good deals. Our job is to take care of you on the legal side. And so get those entities set up as soon as possible so you can get started right away investing in these great deals in the States.
Yeah, and these great deals that are only just starting and are going to continue because the market is definitely shifting, and people are thinking that because the rates are so high that it's not the right time to invest, and that's not true. And it's funny because I just also got off a call with somebody who's in Colombia, but from Toronto. She lives in Colombia, from Toronto, and she was saying, she's a millennial, and she was saying how she wishes, or actually, I apologize, she's just past being a millennial, and she wishes she had started investing when she was younger. And so do I. I had one investment property in the GTA in Toronto area for a short period of time, and I wish that, believe me, I wish I had kept some of those. But anyway, the point is that there is no time like the present to start, and don't let the higher interest rates detract you, because that's temporary. Okay, you can always refinance, and it's got to be worth it because the cap rates are so amazing right now, and your opportunity to buy at a discount on your, like, leverage your opportunities now. Don't wait until the rates go down, because then the prices are going to go up. So it's all relative, right? And you have to just act while the opportunity is there, because like Bob said, the deals are in front of us every single day. And you're going to miss out if you don't have your structure set up. So please reach out to us. Again, I'm Lauren Cohen. I thank you for joining us here at our Investing Across Borders podcast. You can find us at investingacrossborders.net, or our masterclass, investingacrossborders.net/masterclass. Imagine that. And we would love to connect with you and figure out a way to help you invest, live, work, and potentially play across borders. So I'm Lauren Cohen signing off for today, and thank you to Mr. Bob Bluhm for your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. Bye for now.